Nurse commits suicide. So this is the sad story of the day. This is the bummer of the day. But when I say bummer, I mean like a serious topic that we need to talk about. It's a shitty situation that has happened to this specific nurse I'm going to talk about, but it's a broader picture, and it's something that we need to all together as nurses, as healthcare providers, and really as just, human beings work together so we can prevent situations like this from happening. So a nurse commits suicide due to some reported bullying at her work, and this is over in the UK. This actually happened months ago. But the investigation ended, I think, a month or two ago, and now we have the information. So let me just tell you what happened. According to the New York Post, 30-year-old Rhian Collins, a psychiatric nurse at Cefn Coed Hospital in Swansea, Wales, and a mother of two young children, hanged herself in her home in March of 2019. After a 5-month-long investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death, it has been concluded that Collins' death was the result of her having experienced issues at work, particularly with bullying coworkers who made her life, quote, very difficult. This is scary. Right? This is super, super scary. You, as a nurse, you want to just give all day, 24/7, 365. But it is impossible to do so if everyone is taking from you. Everybody needs a support system. And the last thing you need is to go to work and to be fighting with your coworkers, to be bullied by your coworkers, to be afraid of your coworkers. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. So she was having, and this is quote by the Sergeant Nia Lambley, who is the investigating officer. She said, and I quote, she was having issues at work. She was being sworn at, bullied, and believed she was continually given the worst shift on the ward. This led to her becoming obsessed with her appearance, and she would go to the gym 4 times a day. And if there's gonna, like always, link is gonna be down below. Click it and read the entire story. It's super sad. That not only was she going to the gym 4 times a day, she was just secluding herself. She was antisocial. It got worse and worse. She was taking diet pills. She was trying to make herself physically as appealing as possible because inside she was struggling. And it's so sad to think, right? Right? So I just think that this entire situation is horrendously sad, but I'm not going to just end the story like that. I'm not going to just say that's a shitty situation that happened. These are the things we can do as nurses, especially if you are in that predicament. If you are a nurse and you are afraid, or if you go to work and you feel like you're getting bullied, or you're getting the worst assignment, or you just can't relate to the other nurses on your station, in your unit, on your floor, these are the things you should do. So hopefully we don't end up in the same result. So more nurses aren't committing suicide. So more nurses aren't becoming depressed and burning out and dealing with insane amounts of anxiety. So this is a list of things that nurse.org provided, the ways in which you can prevent it going from I feel like a shitty nurse and I don't like the people I work with, or the people I work with don't like me, to ending up to being a suicidal ideation and suicidal attempts. So here's a list of things you should do and can do to prevent that from happening. So number 1, seek resources. And this is super important. So go to your hospital, go to wherever your facility, wherever you're working as a nurse, and just look at the policies, right? Look at where you can go get help. Look at what you can do, or even just go to the state, wherever state you are working at. Look to see if there's laws or phone numbers you can call, or people you can go talk to around you that doesn't even have to be in the hospital, that you can talk about these kind of situations to. That's number 1, seek resources. Number 2, speak to your nurse manager or supervisor. I like that this one's on here because that's the first person. So your nurse manager, your nurse supervisor is supposed to be the caretaker of the unit, to make sure that everyone on the unit, the care is being delivered fairly. I mean, the assignments are being delivered fairly, that no nurse is being bullied, that they're supposed to take care of that situation, right? So going to talk to them is a really, really good idea, because they can be like, oh, so I know you feel this way, but you have to understand that all of these nurses also feel that way. We are dealing with a difficult patient population. We'll work something out. Let's take a mental day off. These are the kind of things these nurse managers and supervisors can do. We can switch up your schedule. We can switch your days or your weekends so you're with a different group of people, right? So there's a lot you can do if you go talk to the nurse manager. But at the same time, it's not easy to talk to your nurse manager or nurse supervisor. They are a higher up. You might be afraid, or you might think that your nurse manager is the one that's making the assignment and you don't want to talk to them. And that's okay, because there's other options. The next option right under that is talk to your coworkers. And for someone who's being bullied by a coworker, this one might seem a little difficult, but there's always, I say there's always, but obviously it's not always, but often there's, even if it's just you and one other nurse, right? Oftentimes there's a nurse or a bunch of nurses that you feel are super negative, that you feel are being that are bullying you. Go to a nurse that you don't think that of. Go to someone that you think is my friend. Go to your buddy if you have a buddy, and if you don't have a buddy, go to another nurse that you are comfortable enough having this conversation with, because that nurse, number one, might be feeling the same way, and if two people feel the same way, you will feel much more comfortable going to talk to your nurse manager, right? So talk to your coworkers. It's a huge help, and especially if you do have your buddy or your friend, it's really nice to air some of this stuff out, because just getting it off your chest is just step number one, because you acknowledge the problem, and number two, having someone else's perspective, you guys can work some of these out, or together you can go to the nurse manager, nurse supervisor. And then right underneath that, so if you can't talk to the nurse manager, you're afraid, you don't like to talk to them, if you feel like you're alone and there's no coworkers you can talk to, always go to HR. HR is a great place to go to, because HR, yes, moving up the ladder, yes, HR should be somewhere up that ladder, but if you don't feel comfortable with people on your floor, on your unit, HR is always open. That's what it's called. It's human resources. They are there to resolve these exact type of problems. Okay, so that is the next step you should do, is go to HR. And then not last but not least, you can also go to your union rep if you work at a hospital where there is a union, because being part of a union, no matter what the union is, they are a bunch of perks, and a lot of the times they have a human resources type of situation for your union, right? So if you're a nurse and you work at a union hospital, always ask your union rep. But this last one is super important for everyone involved. Text the number 741. 741, and this is in case of any emergency, or if you're going through a situation, your anxiety is through the roof, you need to vent, you don't know what to do, you don't trust people around you, you don't have time to go to the HR, pick up your cell phone, pick up your phone at home, dial this number and talk to the person. It's a crisis counselor. They're there 24/7, 365. Someone will be there to hear your issues. And then this one, I have to say this last one. If you have any suicidal ideation, if you feel like you're on the verge of doing something that you can't undo, 911. And I know it's hard to tell someone who's feeling this, but if you have just a lapse of judgment, even just for a second, you pick up that phone, you call 911, and you say, I cannot handle this right now. I think I'm going to end it. We'll get you to a hospital, and we'll get you the help and the and the counseling that you need. This mental suicidal ideation is a mental illness. It's not a problem. It's not your willpower. It's not the people around you. It's a mental disorder. So you should not feel bad about it. In fact, you should feel empowered to call 911. And you having the courage to call is a humongous step, because, like I said, the first step is always acknowledging the issue. If you know it's an issue, let someone know. If you can't let someone know, get some help. And 911 is always available. So, to wrap up, horrible what happened to Rhian Collins. Let's stick together. Let's be nurses. And the reason I love being a nurse is because I get to give so much to my patients. I love to give to my patients. But I can't give to my patients if I don't have a support group. I go to work every day, and I know that no matter the craziness of no matter the difficulty, the pressure I get from the management, administration, whatever, family members that are yelling and screaming, it doesn't matter the situation. The one constant I know is that I have people that I work with that are willing to do whatever it is to make sure I am safe, to make sure that I feel supported. My coworkers mean so much to me, and they allow me to do what I do every single day at a level at which I feel like is helping other people, right? I'm just not a zombie walking through these things. And I try to do the same. But I do have to say, I know, I'm sorry, I'm going on this rant, but I have to put this out there, right? And I'm guilty of this situation too. You can tell, obviously, I'm loud. I'm always talking. It's nonstop, right? So I just want us to look at bullying or look at, nurse violence in a different light, right? Because I know when you're a nurse, and especially when you're new, and people are like, oh, I feel like putting a little bit of pressure on me. You being mean. I'm not comfortable. Experienced nurses, I'm teaching them a lesson. It's no big deal. It's what we do. I talk to my best friend that way. No, thank you. And I am guilty of this. I'm always loud. I'm always making jokes. I'm trying to lighten up the mood. Maybe my definition of lightening up the mood is offensive to someone else, is hurting someone else's feelings, right? So I'm not talking to you. I'm talking with you. I'm just saying I try to be cognizant of this as much as possible. And I like to think that I can tell where people's body languages, or, just they seem like, oh, this didn't sound right. But try and be supportive. Try and communicate the way you feel when you feel a certain way, especially if you think it has crossed the line. Either mention it to the nurse that has told you, mention it to your nurse manager, mention it to the charge nurse. Tell someone that the situation happened. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I'm just letting you know that it passed the line. I just felt a little uncomfortable. That's all that needs to be said. And I love to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? I honestly believe a lot of the time it is situations like that, but no excuses. No excuses, right? I'm just saying, if you air it out, if the nurse or if the coworker of yours has said something or has done something that you think crosses the line, and it is obvious the first time, then just air it out. They'll say, I apologize, won't happen again. If it happens multiple times, that's not an accident. That's not me trying to lighten up the mood. That's me being a dick, and that nurse needs to be dealt with however that hospital, your facility, deals with those situations. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate this. If you guys were informed or educated in any way, shape, or form by these stories, please hit that like button. If you liked my presentation of the news, I really suggest you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time Q the Nurse drops some hot, fresh press news. Thank you. Catch you next week. Deuces.